As the day goes by, Bungie reveals more and more about what Season of the Deep is going to look like. We're talking Aquamarine, Atlantis, Taken Sloan, and yes, of course, above all things, the attention getter that is the brand new Destiny 2 dungeon. And in this video, I'll be going over the concerns I have for the creative direction for this dungeon, based on the track record with Bungie and their past dungeons. Now, there's no official name for this dungeon yet, but I'm sure if you look hard enough on any Bungie leaks page on the Bird app, you'll find the name surely enough. Let's talk Destiny 2 dungeons. Just a quick side note before I get into any of the ranting, I just want to let you know, I love Bungie, I love Destiny 2, and I only want them to improve this game. And now that we have that settled, starting off with our first topic, theming. A lot of you guys are looking at this chapter and saying, yeah, Bungie do got some nice theming, and I hate to break it to you, but they don't. Now, of course, when I say this, I mean specifically anything that is outside of the Destiny universe. So if you're thinking that I'm saying that Pit of Heresy is not perfectly themed to the Hive, or that Shattered Throne is not perfectly themed to the Taken, that is not what I'm saying. There's no doubt that Bungie can and will theme around their own creations perfectly, for the sheer reason that they created it. But being the copy and paste company that Bungie allegedly is, you would think that them looking over the horizon and seeing ideas to implement into the game would come second nature to them. I hate to say, but the only two times that they have done this for dungeons have failed on a fundamental level. And if you think that this idea is exclusive to Bungie and Destiny, it's not. So let's dive into my very first heartbreak. Grasp of Avarice, a supposed pirate-themed dungeon. To me personally, during the season of the Splicer, when all the news for the brand new dungeon that was coming out was pirate-themed, I would have told you that it was going to be the best dungeon Bungie has ever put out and will ever put out. I grew up with games such as Ratchet & Clank, where they would have little one-off sections of pirate levels, and Sly Cooper, which for their third installation held a complete pirate level where you stole your own ship, sailed the seas, and even took that ship into battle. All on a PS2 game, I might add. Now, I'm not expecting Bungie to fork over hundreds and maybe thousands of man hours to implement new features, such as ship fights into the game on the same level that they did. I'm strictly talking about theming here. In both of these games, they dedicated their entire environments towards the purpose that it was supposed to hold. Hell, in Grasp of Avarice, there was not even one eye patch to be seen. To give you a perspective, humor me here. Delete all the knowledge you know for Grasp of Avarice just for right now. If I were to show you this image right here, do you think of pirates? How about this one? This one? Because a hot air balloon really says pirates, doesn't it? How about this one? Any of these, maybe. No, they don't. But people are led to believe that this is pirate themed. For those people, I ask you, what was it that sold you? Was it the one peg leg you saw at the very end? Maybe the print screen Armady shank during the boss? Because I'll tell you right now, the carnival game that they put at the end wasn't it. But just to backtrack a little bit, I don't even want to downplay this. The skull on the side of the mountain was indeed spot on. But the skull is what brings me to my next sub point, that it's all shallow. To further discuss this point, I'll be bringing you over to our next disappointment, Spire of the Watcher, the Wild West themed dungeon. Half of you guys probably forgot that that was the theme of that dungeon. For either you were said and done for the cowboy hat cosmetics, or you just forgot about the one tumbleweed at the beginning of the dungeon. And that's what I mean by shallow. This one tumbleweed was all you got. And Bungie was sold on the idea that that cuts it enough to be Wild West themed. Throughout the rest of the dungeon, you play electrician's apprentice, dealing with arc currents, wires, nuclear reactors. I mean, what the hell happened to the Wild West? Not a single reference of any high noons or quick draws to be seen around here. It was gone after the first minute of gameplay. Bungie, how do you set the stage like this and just not do it? Bungie's theming is unfortunately shallow at best. Because once you get to know the dungeon personally, you'll see that it has nothing to do with any of it. Now, time for kind of a redemption arc. Bungie can do a great job, and they have. At least for me personally, I feel like Season of the Plunder thematically was done brilliantly. The heaps of gold, the tattered flags, the scrappy tech, this area. The only question was, why wasn't that done in the dungeon? It's not like any of these assets were unique to Season of the Plunder. It's all right here in Xur's treasure hoard. Bro's even got an anchor in here for some strange reason. Now, I know a lot of people love Grasp, and good for you. But of course, we all hold our own opinion. Now, as for the mechanic of the dungeon, That's a different topic. And I think we dwelled on themes long enough. So let's move on to the next topic, the mechanics. Dungeons are 3-man raids. So I don't think we would be asking for too much to have a mechanic that is at the very least new. If you don't know what I'm talking about moats. This moat mechanic, in other words, this pick up and bank mechanic, has been in Destiny for a while. With the introduction to the Season of the Arrivals, along with the Prophecy Dungeon, I feel Bungie really started to double down on this mechanic. We have seen it season after season. It's in raids, it's in dungeons, and they even still have a game mode that everyone hates that focuses on it. You know, they even try to hide it from you sometimes, to where you're not banking right next to the bank. You can be throwing them, shooting them, or just standing doing nothing. Now, I hope I speak for a lot of people when I say that I'm okay with this moat mechanic as long as it's not the only thing going on. To give you an example, the vault room in The Last Wish is perfect. In the end of the day, the goal is to pick up a taken buff and bank it on a plate. But you have to get your callouts first. And that's the area that sells it for me. The communication, the focused thinking. I think we can all agree that the vault encounter is a great encounter. Now imagine the vault encounter if all you had to do was pick up a taken buff and bank it. And that was it. Boring encounter, right? Just make it as brain dead as possible. That's essentially what you get in dungeons like Grasp of Avarice. You pick up your moats and you stand next to the bank. Same goes for Prophecy. Now, as of recently, being with the release of Destiny 2's Lightfall, I'm seeing a new evil arise. We're no longer banking moats, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully it stays that way. We are now connecting the dots. We had this connect the dots mechanic in Spire of the Watcher, and I was okay with it. Something new, kind of quirky, but nothing really to write home about. A filler episode, as you call it. It's okay to have a filler episode once or twice, just don't make it a thing. And I want to catch this one before it's too late and it's already implemented into our Final Shape DLC. It may already be too late for the Season of the Deep dungeon. I was okay with it being a one-time simplistic mechanic, but then Brood of Nightmares came out, and that was the main mechanic with very little being altered. Third encounter kind of came out of nowhere, but the third encounter's mechanic was actually a good mechanic. I, for one, enjoyed figuring it out. But again, anything is a step up from this. So at this point, it's more of just me hoping. I know the dungeon is said and done, and there's no going back and changing it. 23 days until it releases. But if it's in the new dungeon, Bungie, please just make it be the last time we see it. I know this business practice of buying the exact same thing twice is being normalized, but fellas, you have to understand, being sold a dungeon or a season that is just reskinned Gambit time and time again is something okay to be upset about. Giving credit where credit is due, we know Destiny has potential to be creative as with all their puzzles and secrets. They are definitely up there, like right there with We Were Here, not so much with the Call of Duty Zombies Easter eggs. But that brings me to my following thought. Maybe Activision was the creative side. It's no coincidence that the last raid we got before the split was Last Wish, one of the most complex raids in Destiny 2. We went from encounters that took only the smartest teams to complete, brute force or not, to the raid they made post-split, moats. Now, I don't work at Bungie, but trust me, I've tried. So I can't really say for certain where these immense critical thinking puzzles come from, like Niobe Labs or the Outbreak Perfected puzzle. But in terms of dungeon mechanics, I hold faith that they can do 110% better than these. And that concludes my worries and thoughts essentially about Destiny's future. But as a note to all of you, including Bungie, don't let me ruin your fun. Though I hold these opinions, it's not even stopping me from having fun in the game. So don't let it stop you either. I love Destiny, and it is unironically my favorite game as of right now. So all my gripes, they come from a place of love. Now, I won't bother you with the subscribe speech, though it would be appreciated. But peace.